Welcome to this lecture, Graceful Presence, the 7 practices to cultivate graceful presence. I know this might sound a bit repetitive. I've already gone over this a lot in the course, but I think this repetition will have some value since this is kind of the core of what I can teach you, my students, in a way that can benefit you for the rest of your life, not just to get a good grade and pass this required course of ethics and values. As I've said numerous times, so again, hopefully it's starting to sink in. The goal of ethics and values, at least the way I approach it, is to help each of us, live the best possible life, a good life where each day, you experience meaningful pleasure. Some have asked, by the way, what I mean by meaningful pleasure. And by meaningful pleasure, I'm talking about a pleasure that is not exploitative or dehumanizing of yourself or others. It's a pleasure that does not bring suffering and remorse in its wake. It's a pleasure that is enjoyable and recreative or refreshing, that brings, calm and peace in its wake. Also, we want to live a good life where you can feel, safe, secure, respected, and free to pursue meaningful activities. And then, perhaps most importantly, a good life is one where each day you're moving closer to becoming your best possible self. Now, there are obstacles and challenges to achieving this good life. Let's look at some of the obstacles first, right? There is the self-doubt, the insecurity, the inadequacy and anxiety that daily events create in our minds. And especially during this time, you probably have a lot of anxiety and insecurity. Another obstacle is the feeling of having no control of our lives, that, our life is out of our control, out of our hands. There's the feeling of being overwhelmed by life, stressed out by all the things demanded of us by family, school, work, friends, church, etc., right? There's, the experience of failure, rejection, being ignored or mistreated, the experience of pain, death, loss, sadness, embarrassment, and all the other obstacles that stop things from going our way. So those are some obstacles that get in our way of living a good life. And then the challenges that we have to face, the questions, right, to living a good life is, how do we treat people, others, and ourselves as we, should be treated? How do we participate in our communities, the classroom, church, work, family, right, in ways to treat everyone as they should be treated with respect, love, and dignity? How do we live responsibly in our physical environment and preserve it for future generations? And how can we come to feel at home, like we belong, right, in the places where we live, whether it's our home or our apartment, our neighborhood, our city? And then the other challenge, how can we possess the confidence that we are living meaningful lives of purpose and value? All of these, obstacles and challenges really arise from our inability to live well with ourselves in our own skin, in our own bodies. That's why I focused on graceful presence, being gracefully present to ourselves, is learning how to live well with ourselves, learning how to live well, in our own bodies, in our own skin. And, if you think about this, fear and anxiety, as well as joy and happiness, do not exist in the world, but in our bodies, emotions, and thoughts. Our mind can turn pain and sorrow and adversity into suffering and mental anguish. Even pleasures and positive experiences get turned into fearful and anxious moments by our reactive mind. Our reactive mind of guarded self-consciousness traps us in mental states of self-doubt, inadequacy, dissatisfaction, and fear. But through graceful presence, our mind can transform all of our experiences, with self-confidence and resilience and cheerfulness into a joyful and enthusiastic, embrace of life. Now, learning how to live with graceful presence is actually quite simple if you pay attention to our embodiment, the way we inhabit our bodies. There are, seven aspects of our experience of embodiment, or seven aspects of our experience of living in our bodies. So pay attention to these right now as I go over them. Pay attention to how you're present to yourself. So one is you'll notice you experience moods and emotions and feelings. They can be pleasant ones like happiness, or they can be unpleasant ones like anger. So pay attention to your moods, your emotions, your feelings too, right? Two, you'll be aware of your body and how it reacts to these positive and negative emotions. You have physiological sensations that are both pleasant and unpleasant and affect how you sit, stand, or move. So pay attention to how your body occupies space. Three, you'll notice that there are many thoughts, many different ideas that are coming and going in your mind all the time, and these thoughts are always encoded in language. Some of them may be optimistic and encouraging, like, oh, what a beautiful day. Or, others may be discouraging, like, oh, I have so much to do, I'll never get it all done. So pay attention again to that inner voice. Four, right? Four, you'll notice your attention is focused on something that concerns you in that moment. Often it's a focus on things you can do nothing about, like what other people think of you, or your annoyance at bad weather or bad traffic. So pay attention to what your focus is, where your attention is. Five, you'll notice, hit the button. Five, you'll notice there is some aspiration or desire in that moment, something that you want to acquire, achieve, or accomplish. Six, you'll notice, you're sizing up and evaluating the people around you, including yourself, in both positive and negative ways, measuring your relative status vis-a-vis others. So pay attention to how you kind of, gaze and assess others. And then, finally, seven, you'll have a sense of a time frame you're in, an anticipation that you project into the future. And because most people don't know how to live well with themselves in their own bodies, or at a minimum aren't aware of their embodiment, so these complex, diverse jumble of feelings, thoughts, desires get channeled into our insecurities about our bodies, about our minds or intellects, and our status. And these insecurities then produce a guarded self-consciousness, right, that affects the way we're present to life. But these experiences, these seven different aspects of our embodiment, can be understood and so mastered to become really the foundation of the seven practices of graceful presence. So, the first practice is don't react to your moods in the moment, but breathe. There's a great quote here. I hit both buttons, by Thich Nhat Hanh, a great Buddhist scholar, who said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." So this first practice invites us to accept whatever we're feeling in the moment, whether it's anger, fear, boredom, happiness, sadness, or anything else, as natural and appropriate. We shouldn't react by suppressing, rejecting, or holding on to our moods. Just focus on our breath, our posture, and movement, and breathe into the emotions. Our feelings are never the problem. It's reacting to them that makes us miserable. So just focus on your breath, posture, and movement in difficult emotional moments. One character exercise that can help with this is whenever you're feeling stressed or worried or anxious, breathe in for a count of 5 seconds and then breathe out for a count of 5 seconds. Do this 5 times. Repeat as needed. The second practice is nurture the body through diet, exercise, and sleep. Now, this is closely linked to the first practice. The first practice has this focus on breath, posture, and movement. So these 3 bodily activities, right, breathing, moving, and posturing, are much more efficient if you've cared for and cared for your body, so your body is healthy. So a little quote here from John Rohn, who said, "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live." So the second practice is vital if we want to become comfortable dwelling in our own bodies. we need to take care of our body. I mean, few of us get enough sleep or good quality sleep, right? To get better sleep, I think you should go to bed each night at the same time and stop using electronic devices 1 hour before bedtime. Also, try not to eat 2 hours before going to bed. No caffeine after midday, and if you can, sleep in a dark, colder room, and stay well hydrated throughout the day, right? Drink enough water. Lack of sufficient water can drastically reduce your energy levels. And cut down on sugar. Eat more fruits and veggies. Cut out one visit to fast food this week, and eliminate one thing from your diet that you know is not good for you. And then exercise, right? Move more. Take the stairs. Park. Well, I guess you're not going anywhere right now, but when you do go out, park farther away from the door, right from the entrance, and take some exercising, meditative morning and evening walks. I mean, slow down, don't rush. Graceful presence is calm, not busy. It's peaceful, not frantic or hurried. And part of this is also, giving other people time, not trying to make them hurried or frantic. Character exercise that can help us care for the body is to keep track of everything you eat. Do some physical activity for 30 minutes each day. Each day take time to clear away the physical clutter from your living and workspace and keep it clear. Let's go to the third practice. Direct your thoughts by controlling your inner voice. Kind of a quote here I like from Shakespeare. He said, "Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt." So this third practice cautions us not to let our thoughts take us down dark paths where our attitude will always follow. When our thoughts or our inner voice starts going negative, we need to cancel those thoughts and replace them with positive ones. Avoid language that arouses mental states like greed, lust, anger, hate, envy, or resentment. Instead, replace such language with words and phrases that invite loving kindness, empathy, forgiveness. Avoid phrases like, "I hate," "you make me," "I wish," "if only." Instead, use phrases such as, "I accept," "I feel," "it is," and "I will." Here's a character exercise for the inner voice, right? During the day when a negative thought emerges, don't hold on to it. Say cancel to the appearance of any negative or unwholesome thoughts. Stop feeding negative thoughts. Have ready to hand a positive thought to replace the negative thought. Let's go to the fourth practice. Focus on what you can control, not on what you cannot. Here's a great quote from Simone Weil. She said, "Everything without any exception, joys and sorrows alike, ought to be welcomed with the same inward attitude of love and thankfulness." This fourth practice encourages us to concentrate on what we can do and what is in our power. Again, often in stressful moments, we think about all the things we can do nothing about, and this only makes us feel more powerless. Get in the habit of asking yourself, what can I do about it right now? Then do it, no matter how small and trivial it might seem. When we focus on what we can do, our ability to solve problems grows. Here's a character exercise to try. Write down 5 things you're currently worrying about. Choose one and identify 3 aspects of that problem you can do nothing about. Let them go. Identify 3 things you might do to successfully resolve this problem. Schedule a time later today to plan a course of action on the 3 aspects you can control. Each day focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot. Let's go to the 5th practice. Aspire to the greatness of goodness. Here's a great quote from Henry Kravis, who said, "If you don't have integrity, you have nothing. You can't buy it. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're not a moral and ethical person, you really have nothing." This 5th practice follows naturally from the 4th. We cannot control whether our best efforts will result in success in acquiring external goods like wealth, fame, or a good reputation. In fact, the issue in aspiring to accumulate money, possessions, positions, and power is even if we are successful, they are unreliable factors in a good life. They take up so much of our time and energy to acquire and maintain that we have little time or energy left to cultivate the true ingredients of a good life, namely our character and our relationships. I mean, each day we should aspire to become just a little wiser, more courageous, generous, honest, caring, and kind. Here's an exercise that can help us in that direction. Write your own obituary. Spend no more than 15 minutes each day writing and editing it. Then compose the talk you deliver at your own funeral. This should include what you consider to be the most important things you'd want your family and friends to remember and never forget. This might, allow you not to have any regrets, when you die. Let's go to the sixth practice of graceful presence. Esteem and treat everyone as you want to be esteemed and treated. Quote, of course, from 1 Corinthians, where Paul defines agape as patient, kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Agape does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Agape, or unconditional love, never fails. So this sixth practice is also a form of the golden rule, which is found in every religious tradition. Our loving kindness for others should be unconditional. No one should have to earn or deserve our kindness before we extend it, and we should be indifferent to their attitude towards us. Each of us needs to feel safe, secure, respected, and free, so we should make sure that others in our presence feel safe, secure, respected, and free. We should treat others, all others, not just as we want to be treated, but maybe we should treat all others as we want those we love the most to be treated. Here's a character exercise to think about. Every day, try to have compassion for 5 kinds of people: someone you are grateful to, a loved one, or a friend, a neutral person, and someone who is difficult for you. And then, of course, have compassion for yourself. Let's go to the last practice of graceful presence. Just focus on being gracefully present to the next 15 minutes. Here's a quote. This is from William James. Success or failure depends more upon attitude than upon capacity. Successful persons act as though they have accomplished or are enjoying something. Soon it becomes a reality. Act, look, feel successful, conduct yourself accordingly, and you will be amazed at the positive results. So this last practice essentially says just take things a day at a time and take each day just 15 minutes at a time. This 15-minute focus also helps us be more sensitive to the beauty of fragile things and to enjoy ordinary, commonplace moments. We come to take pleasure in each moment and each day without trying to hold on to them. It helps you to love your life just as it is, to have compassion for your life and your past. Character exercise. If at any time you feel tired, unmotivated, fearful, anxious, or just in an overall negative mood, just tell yourself that for the next 15 minutes, you're going to act as if you were a person of graceful presence. Then act for the next 15 minutes as if you were a person of calm self-confidence, emotional resilience, cheerfulness, and with a loving and infectious enthusiasm for life. So again, for the umpteenth time, perhaps, those essentially are the 7 practices to cultivate graceful presence. And then, as you know, we've so far worked on 3 cares, in care for the self. A great quote from Buddha: the immature are their own enemies, doing selfish deeds which will bring them sorrow. That deed is selfish, which brings remorse and suffering in its wake. Selfless acts bring no remorse, only happiness in their wake. So the way to practice graceful presence in relation to the self, as we've talked about, is just come to understand the way selfish and selfless desires affect your presence to self. Selfish desire is a desire for pleasure at others' expense. It's a desire for personal aggrandizement. And such selfish desires only produce dissatisfaction in yourself. Even the momentary pleasure is quickly replaced by wanting more and being unhappy until you get more. But more is never enough. There is nothing selfish in wanting, food, comfortable shelter, and clothing, etc. Selfishness comes in wanting to have more than others. The second aspect of this is, practice sensitivity to the beauty of fragile things. Enjoy ordinary, commonplace, and transient things and experiences. Take pleasure and enjoy each day, each experience without trying to hold on to them. This notion of finding the beauty in fragile things was well expressed by William Blake, who said, and I quote, "To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." Cool. The third aspect of caring for the self is to love your life just as it is. Have compassion for your life. You can't change your past. You can only learn from it. So let go of regrets and honor your life by learning from it how to be better. Care for the other, right? Great quote from Shantideva, a Buddhist teacher, who said, "All those who suffer in the world do so because of their desire for their own happiness. All those happy in the world are so because of their desire for the happiness of others." So in care for the other, the way to be gracefully present is with unconditional kindness, love, and forgiveness, right? We've defined love as this combination of empathy and altruism. Empathy is the ability to feel what the other person is experiencing, to walk in their shoes, to see things from their perspective. Altruism is the active part. It's wanting to act to relieve the other's suffering and serve their well-being for safety, security, respect, and freedom. And forgiveness is letting go of anger, hate, and desire for vengeance against those who harm us. All I can say when it comes to care for the other is that my own experience is that being present to others, or when I'm present to others with unconditional kindness, that has been the greatest source of happiness in my life. Even those times when others were unkind towards me, behaved unkindly towards me, when I responded with love and forgiveness, joy and peace were always the consequence. And I've also learned that the quickest way to get out of a foul mood is to forget my own self-pity and do something for someone else. It's always, at least to this point, worked. Well, let's come to the very last care we looked at so far. We'll look at care for the world in a couple of days. But this is care for community, and it's perhaps very challenging because we are hardwired to be status-seeking, and we often construe our status or our need is to be better or more important than someone else. And we often seek to achieve that status by pulling someone else down. I've discovered that whenever I negatively criticize someone else, it's always out of insecurity about my own status. That's why in this quote, right, hospitality requires both radical humility and great self-confidence. The humility to see all others as important as yourself, and the confidence to know your true worth. And so we have the 5 ways of practicing hospitality, right? Commit to the persuasive exercise of power. Recognize and treat everyone as persons of equal worth, value, and dignity, right? Esteem all others in the community as equals, as you esteem yourself. Do not deny others the opportunity to participate in decision-making in ways that affect their lives. And then finally, respect that each person in the community possesses the equal privilege to speak and share the equal and reciprocal obligation to listen. So, again, another review of the 7 practices of graceful presence so that we can all be present to our lives with confidence, resilience, cheerfulness, with a loving enthusiasm so that we can achieve that good life every day, having the experience of meaningful pleasure, the confidence in our safety, security, respect, and freedom. And finally, we know that each day we're becoming, right, better. Each day we're coming closer to becoming our best possible self. Let me just end with with a great quote from Goethe, a great German philosopher. This was his rule of life. He said, "Do you want to live a life without disturbance? Do not let the past worry you. Get angry as little as possible. Rejoice in the present. Rejoice without ceasing. Hate no one. And abandon the future to providence." Finally, the access code for this lecture's quiz on Canvas is 3490. Thank you, and we'll talk to you again soon.